I'm B Baby, Assistant Professor, Civil Departments. I working in AITS Tirupati. Today I am going discuss about BCME subject in Unit 2. So bearing topic. So what is the bearing? What are the types of bearing? What are the applications of bearing? So what is the difference between the whole circular bearing and reduced bearing? So what is the bearing? Bearing is also one method of surveying. So bearing method instruments we have to use in compass only. So bearing is simply is to express the direction or angle between the reference point. In this one is there are the identification of measuring in the lines or boundaries from the earth surface. That is the definition of the bearing. So what are the types of bearing? There are the three types of bearing. First one is the true bearing, and next one is the magnetic bearing, and third one is the grid bearing. So these three types of bearings is also expressed in calculating in the clockwise direction in the north pole. North pole is the reference point. So these three types are the types of bearing. Next one is the representing bearings. So they can be expressed in the various formulas also. First one is the whole circular bearing. Second one, third one is the same. Quadrilateral bearing is another name is reduced bearing. First we can go the whole circular bearing. Whole circular bearing is 0 degrees to 360 degrees. So north to south, south to east, east to south, and north to south. So next one, quadrilateral bearing and reduced bearing is also north to south, south to east, east to south, and north to south. But reduced bearing is calculated in the quadrant type: first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. So first quadrant is 0 to 90, second one is the 90 to 180, third quadrant is 180 to 270, and last coordinate is the 360 degrees. Each quadrant is the 90 degrees we have to calculating. First one north is 0 degrees, and next one is the whole circular bearing is the reference point is north only, but reduced bearing is to reference point north to south. So if you are any calculating the point, they can be the locating point north to south, but whole circular bearing is a single reference point north only. If you have any calculating the any line, so we can first point measuring north to, so from beyond the line or direction or angles. Next one is the pole directions are northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest. We have to calculating the angles also. Reduced bearing is the each coordinate we have to calculating, but whole circular bearing is calculating on the overall. Next one is the applications of bearing. So surveying and mapping, navigation, and civil engineering. Surveying and mapping is also calculating in the direction of boundaries, and how can you the properties we know that, but exact value is we don't have. That's why we have to calculating the this survey. So that time we have to the know for the exactly which area your property is the exact value. Next one is the navigation. Navigation is the traveling. First we have to go the one travel, but return trip we don't have the exact roadway. So that's why we have to the one method we can using the survey. Next one is the civil engineering. Civil engineering also all are the alignments. First one is the roads or railways or pipelines or infrastructure projects. So we have to the, if you are any directions, we have to the using on the civil engineering methods. Next one is the conversion between the bearings, so whole circular bearing and reduced bearing. So what is the difference between the whole circular and reduced bearing? Whole circular bearing 0 to 360 degrees, and reduced bearing is calculating on the coordinate type 0 to 90, 90 to 180, and 180 to 270, and last one is the 360 degrees. So some formulas we have to the based on the finding on the problems. So reduced bearing and whole circular bearing. conversion of whole circular bearing to reduced bearing, and conversion of reduced bearing to whole circular bearing. So first we can go the conversion of whole circular bearing to reduced bearing. Whole circular first column is case, second column is a whole circular bearing between, third column is rule for RB, and last one is the coordinate. This method whole circular bearing to reduced bearing. So whole circular bearing is 0 to 360. 0 to 360 degrees we have to changing the reduced bearing. Reduced bearing is called as a coordinate. That's why we have to write down the coordinate first, second, third and fourth. Whole circular bearing, first one 0 to 90, 90 to 180, 180 to 270 and 270 to 360 degrees. So first 0 to 90 degrees is a whole circular bearing, overall bearing. So that's why we have to write down the WCB. Next one is the second coordinate 90 to 180. 180 is the here only whole circular bearing to reduced bearing. So reduced bearing is two reference point, north to south. North is 0 degrees, south is 180 degrees. Here only second coordinate 90 to 180. So that's why we have to write down the 180 degree minus whole circular bearing. And third one 180 degree and 270 degree. So that's why we have to RB. We have to convert the whole circular bearing to reduced bearing. So we have to write down the whole circular bearing minus 180 degrees. Next one last coordinate 270 degrees and 360 degrees. Last coordinate write down the 360 degrees minus whole circular bearing. Here only all our coordinates we have to write down the negative. Negative is the anti-clockwise directions. We have to calculate the whole circular bearing to reduced bearing. That's why we have to write down the minus minus minus. So last one we know that coordinate, first coordinate north to east, east to here whole circular bearing to reduced bearing. Reduced bearing is the two locations reference points. So that's why we have to the north to east, south to east. First location point is north, second locating point is south. That's why we have to write down the north to east. Second reference point is south. So south to east, south to west and north to west. That's why we have to the calculating the this type of tabular column. And next one is the conversion of reduced bearing to whole circular bearing. Same equal but calculating. First one we have to calculating is the anti-clockwise direction. Next one we have to calculating the coordinate based upon the clockwise or anti-clockwise. So first one is the case, second one is the RB coordinate, third one is the rule for whole circular bearing, and last one is the whole circular bearing between. So first one we know that before we have to the explain. First coordinate, second coordinate, third coordinate, fourth coordinate. Second one is the northeast, southeast, southwest and northwest. So here RB only for the two reference point. That's why we have to the write down the north to east. Second reference point south. That's why we have